What's up, Mosaic? Won't you stand tonight and worship with us?
The kindness of heaven is here in your presence. You move with compassion. You reach out and pull me closer. Your river of mercy, a stream never ending. The strength of your love will carry me. Who can stand against my God has strong and open hands that cover me in mercy. He covers me in mercy. Your mercy covers me. Out of the ashes, eternity promise. Extravagant goodness and patience abundance. I've been forgiven, my failures forgotten. The strength of your love will carry me. Come on, we sing this out. Who can stand against my God has strong and open hands that cover me in mercy. It covers me in mercy. Your mercy covers me. Who can stand against my God has strong and open hands that cover me in mercy. It covers me in mercy. Passion, forgiveness, the strength in my weakness. Devoted, sufficient, your love bridged the distance. Compassion, forgiveness, the strength in my weakness. Devoted, sufficient, your love brings them. Let's sing this out. Compassion, forgiveness, the strength in my weakness. Devoted, sufficient, your love brings the distance. Oh, what kindness in your presence, my salvation. Let's sing this out. Who can stand? Who can stand? Come on. Against my God. My God has strong and open hands. Covers me. Covers me. Covers me. Mercy. Yeah. Mercy. Who can stand? Who can stand against my God? My God has strong and open hands. Covers me. Mercy. Covers me. Mercy. Mercy covers me.
Before I reach out my arms, you've opened up yours. Before I pour out my heart, you know every thought. Sing, I will be anxious for nothing. I will be anxious for nothing. Hold on to one thing, my comfort, my peace. I will be safe in your presence, so fierce and so tender. My comfort. this out together tonight. Let's make this our prayer. You won't forsake me. You won't betray me. You'll never fail me, and I won't be afraid. You won't forsake me. You won't betray me. You'll never fail me, and I won't be afraid. No.
You won't forsake.
You won't betray me.
You won't betray.
You'll never fail.
You never fail.
And I won't be afraid. No. You won't forsake me. You won't betray me. My God, you'll never fail me, and I won't be afraid, because you will.
You will protect.
You will defend.
You will be there.
You're standing with me.
You're standing with me.
And I won't be afraid. You will protect me. You will defend me. You're standing with me.
And I won't be afraid.
I love that song so much because I feel like for so many of us in this room, anxiety is something that's so real that all of us face, that many of us face, and some of us face it, but alone. We face it like it's a private thing that we can't express it to anyone around us. We might not even be able to think that we could express it to God, but what I want us to do is to keep singing that, because Jesus will never forsake you. He'll never betray you. He'll never abandon you. And so I just want us to keep singing that out, because the more we sing it, the more we start to believe it, the less it becomes just words on the screen and words that are in our heart and in our soul. So I want us to sing this out. Come on.
I won't be afraid. You won't forsake me. You won't betray me. You'll never fail me, and I won't be afraid. You won't forsake. You won't betray me. Never fail me, and I won't be afraid. You will protect me.
Let's give it up. Man, let's give it up for the worship team leading us. Brooke. Wow. If no one's told you yet, welcome to Mosaic. We're so glad that you're here with us tonight. My name's Erwin. I'm one of the pastors here, and this is my lovely wife.
Hi, I'm Haven, and I have the privilege of getting to volunteer here.
And standing to the left and to the right and behind and forward are some of the most amazing people in Los Angeles. We want you to meet each other real quick. So just turn around, say hello to someone, and then please find your seat. All right, we're chatty tonight. I love it. This past Friday, something amazing happened. That first song, you may not recognize it, but if you haven't heard it, MSC has released a new album called Heaven that released on Friday. And man, we're so excited about it. We have just loved pouring into these songs, the vision and the voice of Mosaic, and taking that and making it into like a musical form has been so awesome. This is how you make a record, by the way, just kind of like make a disc imaginary. It's so amazing. And some of the songs you'd be like, wow, I've never heard Eyes on You before. What is this? We've never played it in church before. It's a little surprise for you when you check that out. But there is one place that you can check out those songs in a huge way, and it's coming up in a couple weeks,
yes.
Really.
Yep, in November, for 3 days, we're gathering together some of the world's best artists, communicators, influencers, and it's a thing called Mosaic Conference. Woo! It's going to be incredible. You want to get your tickets today, because when you do, you get an exclusive Heaven t-shirt in a time capsule. Looks like this. It is incredible. Sealed. It'll be the lowest that tickets are tonight, so you want to make sure and get those today on your way out at the next stop. You can see there after the gathering.
Up next, to continue in our time of worship, I want to bring up our campus pastor, the man, Joe Smith, to lead us in this time. Give it up for him.
Hey, don't you guys love Haven and Aaron, right? Don't go. Stay here. We just love you guys. That's all. Like, I want to be like them when I grow up, right? Like in terms of so much Aaron is one of the kindest people I've ever met in my entire life. Thank you. And you just ooze. And then it's not fair, because then you married someone just as kind and amazing as you are.
Kinder.
Right? And so I just want you guys to know how much of a gift they are to our community, to our church. If you have not bought them coffee and dinner, do that now, because it'll make your life better. All right?
Down. 500
double dates, we just said right now, okay? We love you guys so much. Thank you for what you give to our church.
Thank you.
Yeah, amazing. You guys excited to be in church tonight? Man, tonight's going to be special. It's a phenomenal talk. Worship has already been on point. And you are here, and we get to be a part of this together, and we're gonna continue worshiping together as we give together. So I want to invite our team to come forward, and I want to read a verse together before we give to prepare our hearts. And this is in 2 Chronicles chapter 31, verse 5. It says, as soon as the order went out, the Israelites generously gave the first fruits of their grain, new wine, olive oil, and honey, and all that the fields produced. They brought a great amount, a tithe of everything. And the people of Israel and Judah who lived in the towns of Judah also brought a tithe of their herds and flocks, and a tithe of the holy things dedicated to the Lord their God, and they piled them in heaps. And then verse 7, they began doing this in the 3rd month and finished in the 7th month. Any like fitness freaks out there? Make some noise. Okay, 7 of you, all right. Well, welcome to LA, we're glad you're here. Thank you for core power yoga and Soul Cycle. You're incredible, right? So I was in London. I had a friend of mine and I was on like a health kick, and I was like, I gotta get back in shape. And as you can tell, I'm still on that journey. But as a side note, but he told me about this thing called Huel. And apparently it's this smoothie that you have twice a day, and it has the perfect nutrients and vitamins that you need for the perfect meal. So he's like, I do this and it's amazing. I was like, all right, I'm in. So I go on Amazon, I buy it. Day one, I drink that thing and it tastes not great, as all healthy things do, right? If you're an entrepreneur, make a healthy thing that tastes good, please. You'll be a billionaire, right? And my wife, about day 3, I'm into this, she's like, hey, are you still doing Huel? And I was like, why you gotta be judgy, right? Like, maybe I'm just going through it in my own time, right? She's like, I noticed you haven't done it in a couple days. And I said, I love you too, babe. I'm so glad we've been married for 7 years. We have an amazing marriage, right? Where you call me out when I say things I'm gonna do and I don't actually do them. And here's what I've found to be true. It is so easy to start things, it's really difficult to finish them. And you know what's also true in our giving? It's really easy to give once. Sometimes it's hard to build a practice of giving. Because when you give in a moment, and I hope that when you come here and we have moments where we give and we open up the scriptures and we talk about our tithes and offerings, I hope you're inspired to give. We want to be a part of that. But if you only give when you're inspired, you're just changing a moment. But if you give over time, that's actually when you can create a movement. Where you, together, little by little, sacrifice by sacrifice, day by day. See, the Israelites, I love it that they said they brought all of the best things that they were a part of. They brought their honey, they brought their first fruits, they brought their cattle. But they didn't just do it once. Because even when you do it once, because here's also the thing, if you give one time, a lot of times what happens is we feel good about it and it changes us. But when you give reoccurring and when you are generous, it doesn't just change you, it changes others. And Mosaic, this is what we are like committed to. We want to be the type of church that is so generous and so sacrificial, it makes no sense. That people are like, how are they being a part of seeing God move in a powerful way? And we go, you know how? Because we had people that gave generously. Because people sacrificed at the highest of levels. And let's be the church that people go, oh, if you want to wonder what a place looks like when they give, not for their own gain, but for the gain of others, you got to be a part of Mosaic. You got to be at the epicenter of what we're doing. And let's live out the story of being generous and sacrificial. See, because on the other side of your gift, on the other side of your sacrifice, is the name of someone whose life will forever be changed. And let's do this with so much intention, so much purpose. And let's do it not as other people give on our behalf, but we give on the behalf of others. So we love you so much, and thank you for all of you that already give, already are a part of what we're doing. We literally could not do it without you, and I think that's how God planned it. It's because he knew that if we did it by ourselves, we think we got the credit, but if we do it together, it always gives credit back to God. So you can go ahead and pass the buckets. And there's a couple ways you can give. This one over here says checks. Some of you have never heard of a check before. Like, what's a checkbook? And you can drop that in there. You can give online. Also download the app. So many different spaces and opportunities to give. Hey, God is moving in such a profound way at Mosaic. So many incredible things coming up that we want to let you know about. So take a moment and check out church news with us.
What's up, Mosaic? My name's Dom.
And I'm Caroline. Welcome to Church News. Here at Mosaic, the easiest way to stay up to date with everything that's going on is to follow us on Instagram. You could also go to the Next Step area after the gathering to meet your new best friends and find out how to join a team.
If you like what we do here on Sundays, round 2 happens on Wednesdays. It's called Midweek here at Hollywood. 8 p.m., bring a friend, bring a barista, bring that girl you've been checking out, and come on, we can't wait to see you. I got a seat for you.
Mosaic MSC just dropped their latest album!
Heaven!
Get it at Next Step after the gathering. It's amazing!
Maker of the heaven, there is none.
But better.
Yeah, not like that, but better than that.
Hey Mosaic, I'm so excited to announce that starting September 29th, Pastor Erwin is launching a brand new series called Chasing Daylight. See, I would not be in Los Angeles if it was not for that book. I read it, it changed my life, and I said I have to be at Mosaic. So here's what we're gonna ask of you. Join us, invite all your friends. It's gonna be a 6-week series, and around the series, we're gonna launch book clubs, we're gonna have crews. And so if you wanna host a book club, go to mosaic.org/chasingdaylight and get you all the info on that. And if you're in LA, I wanna encourage you to join a crew. It's a great space to meet people, get connected, be a part of what we're doing. It is gonna be phenomenal. And there is a limited edition. So make sure you buy your copy at Next Step. Go get it now, go get it today, don't wait. I cannot wait for this series.
Our lead pastors, Erwin and McManus, have created a weekend where we can lean into the future of the church, the future of worship, and the future of humanity. This weekend is called Mosaic Conference, and it's coming up so soon. If you're still not convinced, check out this video.
T-minus 90 seconds and counting.
Don't get involved in fights you don't belong in, but you better fight the ones that are yours. And sometimes in the middle, you have to choose what that fight is.
Start where you are, and then one day you may look back and realize that very small step you took, that one step in the right direction, was actually one of the biggest steps of faith of your entire life, because you had no idea what our good God would do on the other side of it.
That burn in your belly and that desire in your heart is purpose. And from the time that you were knitted in your mama's womb, downloaded in your DNA is the capacity to run your race. You have the capacity to be all that you were called, created to be.
Our God is a God of the future. And everything that God has done for us, it's all about our future. Hope is for the future. Faith is for the future. Forgiveness is for the future. Love, it's for the future.
Some of you just keep looking at the wind and looking at the clouds, and what Solomon is saying, stop looking for excuses and waiting for the perfect time, and get in the game and act and be bold, because the future belongs to the bold.
We love you, Mosaic.
Let's stand and worship together.
I'm running to your promise, holding fast to everything you said to me. You can take me through the fire, you can ignite the flame inside of me. I'm on the road less traveled, and I'm on my way to your heart, Lord. What no eyes see, you'll show me your heart, Lord. Show me your heart, Lord. Open up my eyes to see you, my mind, to know you, my soul. It longs only for you. Let me hear your voice resounding your words, creating a brand new heart in me. My desire is to love you. You're the light that will guide me through the night. You are with me in the battle, bringing peace to the war inside my heart. I know your love's no limits in every space. Your love invades. You're calling me out, and I'm ready. So open up my eyes to see you, my mind to to know a love so beautiful. Oh Lord, show me your heart to live in grace, so wonderful. All I want is to be where you are, to know a love so beautiful. Oh Lord, show me your heart to live in grace, so wonderful. All I want is to be where you are, to know a love so beautiful. Oh Lord, show me your heart and open up my eyes to see in my mind, to know you, my soul, and longs only for you. Oh, let me hear your voice, resound in your words, creating a brand new heart in me. Open up my eyes to see in my mind, oh my soul, it longs only for you. And let me hear your voice, resound in your words, creating a brand new heart in me.
Come on. So good. How you guys doing tonight? Man, this is so good. What an electric day it has been so far. And I have a couple of things I just want us to focus on for a few moments. I'm going to ask you to sit down. If you can get a chair. And we still have, I think, more people coming in. So a couple of quick things. One, it's so good to be home. We've been in Asia. We went to Kuala Lumpur, then Taipei, then Singapore. And if you're a first-time guest, my name's Erwin McManus, and welcome to Mosaic. We're so glad you're here. And one of the amazing things that happened along the way, I don't know if you noticed with the Mosaic Conference, we added a speaker, and his name is Kevin Liu. He's the pastor in Kuala Lumpur of a church called Collective. It's a great name. And the Collective is full of so many young entrepreneurs and pioneers and innovators and creatives. And what's such a contrast is every day you get awakened by the Islamic call of prayers. And throughout the day, 5 times a day, the call goes out, and then you have this vibrant, dynamic, growing community of faith in Jesus. And so we asked Pastor Kevin if he would speak at the conference, and he's been coming the last few years, but just kind of hiding in the background. And I've been trying to be really careful. If you ever go to conferences like this, you kind of know our conference doesn't really have the speakers everyone usually has, because we're trying to be subversive. We're trying to find those unique voices that can speak into our community. And so I want to encourage you on a couple of things, because it's easy to get a crowd. It's harder to build a church, but it's incredibly difficult to create a culture. And the culture of Mosaic is something you have to nurture. And you are the future leaders of Mosaic. And so we want to put the culture in you and make sure that you can take the culture wherever you go around the world. And it's going to be an exciting thing. And a part of getting that culture is being a part of the Mosaic Conference. And so I want you to just block out November 8th through 10 and commit yourself. Go outside, sign up tonight, register for the conference. It's going to be at the theater at the Ace Hotel. It's going to be incredibly powerful. And there's really 2 reasons. One is you need to be in a place where God builds things into you if you want to keep growing in your faith journey. But it's also another thing. There's like 40 people coming from Brazil and probably like 50 from Latin America, another 40, 50 from Asia, from all over the world. And a part of why they're coming is they want to experience Mosaic, and they cannot experience Mosaic without you. And so I want to make sure that we just have this incredible, vibrant time where people get to meet all the amazing people at Mosaic, and you're going to meet people that will just change your life.
And so if you're here and you consider Mosaic your tribe, or if you are really being affected by what's happening here, sign up for the conference and don't tell me you can't afford it. It's amazing what you can afford when you want it. And you just have to actually just adjust some priorities and decide this is what we're going to do. Which leads me to the second thing. We're about to start this series called Chasing Daylight, and it's focused on a book I wrote over 10 years ago. And part of the reason I chose to do this is that I've had so many of you ask me questions about your life, and most of the questions are actually addressed in Chasing Daylight. And I began to realize that most of you were not even born when I wrote that book, and that you have no idea what's in there, and that this is really the journey that most of you need to go on. And that's why we're pulling it back and doing it all over again. But I'm amazed how many people are not sure they should spend $20 for a book. We were in Orange County last night, and I heard a bunch of, people in their 20s who were, dressed pretty nice and looked educated go, I don't know, should I buy a book? And they said, let's do a book club. And one of them said, I think we have to have a book to do a book club, which is why the word book is in book club. And then one of them said, let's buy one book and we can all share it. And I thought, this is amazing. And if you spend more money on your feet than you do your brain, you're in trouble. And I'm just saying this because you need to hear this, all right? I put an immense amount of work and sacrifice in crafting the book, investing in you. I already knew the stuff in the book. I didn't do it for me. When you buy a book, you're not investing in the author. You're investing in yourself. And if you don't make the decision to invest in yourself, don't be surprised if you're not a good investment. We're going to do these book clubs in crews and book clubs all over the city, and it's a great chance, but you need a book to do a book club right, all right? And then you can invite your friends, and you can invite your friends who don't believe in God and don't go to church, because if you invite your friends to a Bible study, they're going to think you're out of your mind. You go, no, thanks, that's not my thing. But if you invite them to a book club, it's like Oprah, and all of a sudden, it's an awesome thing. Even we ought to just call Bible studies book club. It just happens to be a very particular book. And but we're going to do a book club, and it's going to help people dive in. I'm telling you, it will change your life. And so I want to encourage you to get in a book club, get in a crew, and join us. But you need to get the book now. And the reason I'm encouraging you to do this is we only have 1,000 books. And we're not going to buy more books until you buy the books. And so if you decide at the last minute, we're not going to have books. And then you can go online or find them wherever you can, but we're not going to worry about it. And so we just want to help you help yourself. And then there's the third thing. We have a new album called Heaven that just came out. So excited about it. It's amazing. I love Glory and Wonder, and I think it's amazing that Glory and Wonder has been nominated for 3 Dove Awards, and Tremble is being sung all over the world. And you think we just couldn't outdo that, but MSC has. And I don't want to compare albums. It's great, but this was like great, brand new. It's like, is it okay to say? It's better. Okay, all right. It's transcendent. It's transcendent. It is, and it's just creating a new genre. And it's really beautiful. And I don't know which one is my favorite song, but there is one song that I'm in, and I'm just gonna say, it just transforms the song, But so I wanted to feature that song tonight, and I haven't been this transparent in all the other gatherings, and so I asked Mariah, I want to show that, because we created, our team created 3 music videos, and there's a music video for a song called 15 that's built on Luke 15, on the story of the prodigal son, and it has deep meaning for me personally as a father. And this song is so powerful because it tells us that when you're running from God, God's chasing after you. When you finally turn around and ready to come home, God does not hold your past against you. He just runs to you and holds you close. And if you just listen to the words, your heart will just be shaken with the unconditional love of God. But the music video, it is just absolutely extraordinary. And so you have this juxtaposition of this really edgy video and this really timeless message coming together, and me. And so I asked if we could show the music video tonight, and Maya says, no, it drops next Friday. So I said, can we do this? And she goes, we can't show it on the live stream. So if you're watching us on the live stream, you don't get to watch this. You're going to be blacked out for like 3.5 minutes. We're going to show you some other kind of video or a cartoon or something like that. And this will be a subtle reminder to you that you should be here right now. And isn't that right? So without further ado, the world premiere of, you have to stand for this. Come on, everybody get to your feet. World premiere of 15.
Against all hope, I will believe. Through raging wars, you fight for peace. You have always made a way, a path of beauty you create. And I know your love is strong enough to meet me where I am. Hallelujah, you will never let me down. Hallelujah, you will never let me down. Your hope runs through my veins. Your love, it paves the way.
So good. Mosaic MSC 15. Father, thank you so much for this night, for this moment. Thank you for the life that we're absorbing in this room. God, I pray that you would become undeniable to every person here. And God, for that person who has walked into this space and they're not even sure why they're here and they don't even know if you exist. And I pray, God, that you would just make yourself undeniable to them. That you would just let them know that you see them, that they matter to you, and that Jesus is your name. God, I pray that you would disrupt the status quo. You would shake us free from apathy. That God, you would deliver us from mediocrity. That you would awaken the greatness in each person here. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen and amen. You may be seated. One of the things I love so much that I get to do is I get to travel the world, and I have the privilege of going to so many places and to meet such extraordinary people. And this trip has been no different, to go to KL and to Taipei and to Singapore and to interact with both entrepreneurs and people of tremendous faith, to meet with cultural pioneers and inventors and innovators. And you get to meet people who do what they do better than anybody in the world. And it begins to create inside of your own experience a sense of the extraordinary capacity inside of every human being. Sometimes it feels like people who accomplish something great are just different material, doesn't it? They're just different material than the rest of us. We're made of ordinary material, and they're made of some other kind of source or substance. And yet one of the unique things about Mosaic is that we have a conviction that there is greatness inside of every human being. And I hope you never get tired of hearing this, because this is going to be the story we tell with every breath we have. That there has never been an ordinary human being created on this planet. That there's greatness inside of you. And I found that sometimes it's actually people of faith who resist this perspective on humanity most. They'll say, no, it's God that's great. We're not great, we're just humans. And in fact, they seem almost a little bit nervous that if you focus on the greatness of people, that you're not focusing on the greatness of God. You're almost diminishing his greatness. And I want you to understand something, that I'm absolutely convinced that God is great. And you probably would expect to hear in this kind of environment that God is great, but maybe you're a little surprised that someone would tell you that you're great. Or at least that you have greatness within you. But then it makes perfect sense to me, because you see, if God is great, then everything he creates is great. Because if you're great, you can't create something that's just okay. And if God is great and he created you in his image and likeness, then he created you with greatness within you. And if that's so, then God's not worried about your greatness, because your greatness is just a reflection of his greatness. So he's not worried about you being great. God's not up there going, oh no, they're going to be too great. In fact, they're so great, they're diminishing my greatness, because you're great, but you're not that great. You're not so great that you can actually diminish the greatness of God. But in fact, when you live beneath the greatness that God has placed in you, you diminish the image of God. You do not properly reflect who he is and who he created you to be. But I think there's this dilemma, though, because we have this absolute conviction that every human being has greatness within them, but the reality is that very few people ever actually live out that greatness. Most of us will live our lives being haunted by a greatness we have never achieved or attained or accessed within us. In fact, I'm convinced there's some of you here right now that have this sense that there's more in you than you can access, that there's something beautiful, something extraordinary, yes, even greatness inside of you, but somehow it's elusive to you. And so you've lived a life that's less than the life you're created to live. How is it possible that God could create us with greatness within us, and yet we could live a life beneath that greatness? I think sometimes it's because of the implications of our language of faith. We talk about things like grace and faith, and it oftentimes makes us passive about life. You know, God will do it. You know, if it's supposed to happen, it'll happen. Have you ever had people tell you that? Have you ever said that yourself? You know, if it's meant to be, it'll be. I hear so much passive garbage from people of faith that justifies our own apathy, mediocrity, and inability to access the greatness within us. See, you know what I've noticed? Is that the people who say, if God wants it to happen, it'll happen. It seems like God never wants anything to happen for them. But the person who steps into their intention and takes responsibility, takes ownership for the greatness within them, it's amazing how often God shows up for them. So I want to take some time and talk about what it takes to be great. Because I don't want you to live in this elusive mirage that if there's greatness in you, it just naturally happens. It just naturally emerges because you're just so awesome, you're so great. It just can't help but being great. But speaking of that, have you ever had like a moment where you were like awesome? I mean, you can't say that out loud, although in LA, we do. You ever had that moment you thought, wow, I was kind of great? I hope they saw it. And maybe you can't sustain it. It was just 5 minutes of greatness. If only you could get it on film. And it could almost be in any arena of life. Have you ever had maybe you're an actor and you're like, I had that moment. I was so tender. I was so in touch with my deepest self. Have you ever had that moment? I was like Daniel Day-Lewis. It was amazing. But you couldn't sustain it. And they say that even about professional quarterbacks that are backups. They're professional backups because they can have moments of greatness, but they can't sustain it. They have one or two games that are spectacular. Even the question right now about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Fitzpatrick. He's playing the greatest football possible. But can he sustain it? Because his history is he starts great and then he fades away. Because it's so hard to sustain greatness. Have you ever had a moment where you're just great? Maybe somebody asked you for advice and you're not really that good at giving advice, but you had a moment. You were like Yoda. You had the insight. It worked, and they did what you said, and it was the right thing. But you couldn't sustain it because you're just not that wise. So after that, you just said, you need to figure this out for yourself. I can't be that for you. You ever had that moment where maybe at work you were the best employee? Just for a few moments, just for 5 minutes, you were a great employee. If only your boss saw it. Some of you thought you were going to be professional athletes because you had your 5 minutes of greatness. I was so great, but I couldn't sustain it. See, the reality is that most of us have moments of greatness in our life. Sometimes you have relational genius inside of you. Did you ever date someone and you almost had the fight, but you were just so smooth? Like you were a genius, a relational genius. You avoided the conflict and she stopped being mad at you. But you couldn't sustain it. And that's why the relationship is over. Because you couldn't sustain those moments of greatness. See, I think a lot of us, at times, we have illusions of who we're going to be by those little flashes of greatness. I almost was a great musician. But then the 6th minute came. Almost a great athlete, but then 10 minutes happened. Almost was great. But what does it take to be great? I started thinking about different people who are great. And it's interesting because the people in the scriptures, we would identify them as great. Moses was great, and Esther was great, and Ruth was great, and Daniel was great. And we see these men and women who achieve a level of greatness. And sometimes we want to extract just a moment in their life and try to make that our life. But there are moments you study the trees, but other moments you need to study the forest. See, there are moments you have to look at the overarching pattern in people's lives and ask the question, is there a consistent pattern that we can see over and over again in people, both in the scriptures and in history, who attain greatness that maybe we need to take on in our life? So I thought about one person that I think is clearly the greatest person of our time in their particular field. I almost hate to admit this, but I love Steph Curry. And I love Kevin Durant, and I love everyone on the Warriors team, and I hope the Clippers are great this year. But I'm just gonna have to say, if an objective analysis of professional basketball, that the greatest player, the most dominant player alive today is LeBron James. And I'm not saying that because I want to say it. I'm saying it because I think it's true. And it's not even whether you like his approach toward the game or the teams that he's on. I know now Laker fans are going crazy because LeBron is a Laker and now the Lakers are going to be great. But really, are they going to be great? Or will LeBron just be great and the Lakers will look great? Because really, were the Cavs great or was LeBron great and he was a Cav? Well, was the Heat great? Or LeBron great? And then the Heat looked great. Because you see, I notice a pattern around LeBron. See, before he goes to a team, they're not great. And then while he's on that team, they're great. And then when he leaves that team, they're trash. I think the moment he leaves, they're not great anymore. And so even though I don't want to admit this, but I look at it and go, here's a person for 48 minutes on the floor, they're the greatest, most dominant human being on the planet. And somehow, they change the dynamic for everyone on their team. Everyone on LeBron's team looks better when LeBron's on the team. In fact, you might actually want to pick up those players, except they don't look like the same player when they're not with LeBron. But what happened? They were good for a moment when they were next to LeBron. So I started thinking, what does it take to be great? 48 minutes. Well, for about 10 of those minutes, maybe 12 of those minutes, LeBron is sitting on the bench. Now, one time that wasn't true. Last year in the finals against the Celtics for the conference final, where the Celtics should have won and gone to the finals, but LeBron stole it. He played all 48 minutes. He simply willed that team to victory. He played all 48 minutes. It's a physical phenomenon. He's a beast. 48 minutes. That's like running 4 miles of sprints and having to put a ball in a basket for 48 minutes. But normally he only plays 37.9 minutes, which is a lot. About 38 minutes a game, LeBron James is on the court. So for 12 minutes, he's on the bench. So how can he be the most dominant player while he's on the bench? And yet somehow he is. And for 38 minutes, he's on the floor. So I'm going, okay, that's when he's great. But do you know, out of those 38 minutes, how many minutes he actually has the ball in his hands? 6.1. He only has the ball in his hands for 6 minutes out of 48 minutes. He's considered the greatest, most dominant player in the game. And what's interesting is that last year, when they lost to the Warriors, he had the ball in his hands 6.1 minutes. And 2 years before that, when they lost to the Warriors, he had the ball in his hands 6.1 minutes. But the year in between, when they actually defeated the Warriors, he had the ball in his hands 5.1 minutes. The greatest, most dominant player in the world had the ball a whole minute less when he accomplished a greater feat of greatness. What's going on here? See, I think most of us, when we think of greatness, think about those 5 minutes when the ball's in our hands. And we just keep hoping that when the ball's in our hands, it will actually demonstrate our greatness, but we don't actually factor in that greatness is actually established in those 42 minutes when the ball is not in our hands. And even more that it's established in all the minutes and hours and days and weeks and months and years where you're not even on the court. See, I think a lot of us have a mythology of greatness. Oh, just give me the ball and I'll show you I'm great. And we don't realize that greatness is actually best evidenced when the ball is not in your hands, because your greatness elevates everyone else to their greatness. I don't know what it's like, how traumatic it must feel as the greatest player in the world to realize that you cannot win except when the ball is in everyone else's hands. And somehow your greatness has to affect them. So I was thinking about Joseph. Because Joseph's life is a life of greatness. It ends on a high note of greatness. But his life didn't lend itself toward a life of greatness. In fact, in many ways, his life began as a tragedy and it ended as a triumph. And so at the very end of the book of Genesis, it is the end of Joseph's life. And the book of Genesis is odd because the first half of the book of Genesis is the history of all humanity, and the second half is, and then Joseph. Like, how do you go from everyone to Joseph? But that's how significant Joseph is. The story of all humanity for the writer of Genesis is to get us to the story of Joseph. And the moment Joseph's life ends, the book of Genesis ends. Can you imagine living a life so great that a book of the Bible closes when your story closes? And so at the end of his life, in Genesis 50, verse 24 through 26, he says to his brothers, the brothers that we'll discover, if you don't know anything about Joseph, you'll pick it up along the way. He had brothers who betrayed him, brothers who despised him, brothers who sold him into slavery. And what we find is that later, instead of holding on to bitterness, Joseph became the vehicle of their salvation. They would have died in a famine, but because of Joseph, they found a future. Then Joseph said to his brothers, I am about to die, but God will surely come to your aid and take you up out of this land to the land he promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Joseph made the Israelites swear an oath and said, God will surely come to your aid, and then you must carry my bones up from this place. So Joseph died at the age of 110. And after they embalmed him, he was placed in a coffin in Egypt. And the reason that detail is important is because Joseph was given the highest place of honor in his death that the Egyptian empire could give him. He ended his life as the most important individual in the empire of the Egyptians other than Pharaoh. He lived a life of greatness. But what does it take to be great? What you find over and over again is that individuals who actualize their greatness have a sense of personal destiny. It's almost frustrating because they have a sense of destiny that cannot be validated by reality. You just have a sense that you are called, created, destined to accomplish something that seems irrational. It seems beyond you. And that's what happened with Joseph. When Joseph was around 17 years old, he had two dreams that we find were actually given to him by God. And in these dreams, he saw his brothers and his father, and he saw that they actually bowed down and worshiped him, or revered him, or honored him. And so Joseph shares his dreams with his brothers and father. That was a bad idea, by the way. I don't care if God gave you that dream. Don't share it with your family. Can you imagine how it would go over? Anybody have brothers, sisters? I had a dream. God showed up. We were all in that dream. What happened? Well, we were all in a circle, and I was in the middle. You were like planets and the moon, but I was the sun. And you all bowed down and gave me honor. See, I don't know about you, but that would not go over well in my family. Would not create endearment or affection. I would not be getting my brother and sisters going, that's incredible. I love that. I believe in you. One day I'm going to honor you. I'm going to bow down before you. That's so good to know. And it didn't go well for Joseph. They despised Joseph. They thought Joseph was arrogant and narcissistic and thought too highly of himself. And on top of that, he wore multicolored coats, which gave him both style and substance. And I'm okay with that. Because some people wear tassels on their Nikes. And people will hold it against them. Joseph was a dreamer who had a sense of destiny. And here's the curious thing. All your dreams will not become a reality. But if you don't have a dream, you will never have a reality worth dreaming about. And there's something odd about people who achieve great things. They actually dream about achieving great things. And if God gives you this dream, keep it to yourself. Let it shape you from the inside out. Let other people begin to identify that dream in you. That's the healthy way of doing it. But I can tell you this. I was 24 years old when I dreamed this place up. I did not live in LA. I did not live in California. I had no tangible evidence I would ever live here, be here, come here, or do this. But I had this dream. I drove through Los Angeles one time at 24, and it overwhelmed me. And I saw Mosaic before she ever existed. I saw you before you ever walked into this building. I had a dream at 24, and I had this sense of destiny, and it drove my life. I remember telling Kim when we were dating, if we get married, we're going to LA. I was talking to a little farm girl from the mountains of North Carolina who did not want to live in a city, who was from the East Coast, that I knew I was going to Los Angeles one day because that dream was inside of me, and I believed that there could be a community of faith, a church that would actually inhale the world and exhale the hope that only Jesus can bring to the world. And I was out of my mind, but it was a dream that drove my life. And I think that the problem sometimes is that when you become a follower of Jesus, you don't use the language of destiny, you use the language of calling. And I'm not that comfortable with the word destiny because it has the word destined in it. Because I think that sometimes we think our destiny is destined. And so all you need to do is just exist because your destiny is waiting for you. But I want you to know your destiny is not waiting for you. Your destiny is waiting for you to create it. There has to be the sense of personal destiny that changes your beliefs and your perspective about life. It drives you forward and it calls you out. And that's the thing. See, I remember when I became a follower of Jesus, they told me, Jesus is calling you. You need to follow him. And so I did. I responded to that call, and I gave my life to Jesus. And they said, Jesus is calling you to be baptized. So I did, and I got baptized. Then later they said, well, Jesus has a call to ministry. I didn't even know what ministry was, but I went and responded to that call. And then later they said, Jesus calls people to be missionaries. I didn't know what that was, but I responded to that call. Because I didn't care what what the addendum was. If God was calling, I was answering. Because to me, I didn't want a direct call. I didn't need a direct call. If God was just ringing on a payphone on a side street, I'm going to go answer that call. God doesn't have to be calling me. I'm going to answer the call because I want to be wherever God is. I want to live in that intention and that purpose because I know that where God is, that's where life is. But the problem sometimes is that the language of calling is only used for pastors. And so like, oh, you're called. Everybody else is just jello. You don't have a calling. You're uncalled. You did not get the rose on The Bachelor. You were unchosen. And so I think then the rest of us, we live our lives without intention and without the sense of destiny because we don't understand that we're called. But I want you to understand something. God doesn't have all these different callings. That was just the way Christianity tried to explain the apathy among people who said they were living their lives for Jesus. See, there's only one calling. Jesus says, come follow me. That's the only calling there is. And the moment you hear that call and you choose to follow Jesus, he will lead you into your intention. And if no one's ever told you, you are called by God to live a life that matters, to live a life of significance. You are called by God because he has placed greatness inside of you and he's calling that greatness out of you. When you have that sense of destiny, it gives you an inner belief that gives you a compass that allows you to keep walking through your failures and your disappointments. Joseph had a dream, but at 17, his brothers hated him. So instead of killing him, they sold him into slavery. And for the next 13 years of his life, he was a slave. I don't know if you ever felt you had a dream from God, but it never became your destiny. You felt like God just let you down. It didn't come through. And I want you to know that Joseph began his life with a dream, but after that, his life became a nightmare. You have to hold on to it. When I responded to the call to be a pastor, the pastor who was mentoring me in the moment said, now, Erwin, if you can do anything else, you should do it. Because this is a really horrible job, by the way. And it's also an incredible job. And he thought that was exclusively to pastors. If you can do anything else, you should do it. But you know what I've discovered? Every calling that comes from God is the hardest calling in the world. See, the calling God has on your life, if you're not ready to step up to it, you should do something else. You should accept a lesser calling. Because if you can do anything else in the calling God has for you, maybe you should do it because it requires less of you. See, you can exist in the status quo. You can embrace mediocrity. You can choose to be average. But when you embrace the call of God, all of that goes out the window. When you embrace the call of God, you have to walk away from the status quo. You cannot allow mediocrity to define you. When you accept the call of God, you have accepted a call to greatness, and nothing less is good enough. But there has to be not only the sense of destiny, there has to be the self-motivated drive. See, what it takes to be great is an internal drive that is not motivated by anyone else or anything else. It is internal, it is intrinsic, it is a fire that burns inside of you. Have you ever noticed that with world-class athletes? They'll ask them a lot of times, sometimes like one athlete will say something, throw shade on another athlete, and they go, does that motivate you? And the athlete who's great will say, I don't need that to be motivated. I'm already motivated. See, if someone talking smack motivates you, you're just average. If someone else's greatness is what motivates you, you don't understand greatness yet. If you need someone's competition, or if you need someone's backdrop, see, if someone else's success is what's driving you, you're not moving toward greatness. You're being driven by envy, or jealousy, or greed. But that doesn't lead to greatness. So when you move your life toward greatness, you don't need to be motivated by any external factors or circumstances. You have an internal drive that gets you up in the morning because your life matters and you must do something. See, God isn't just looking for the person who will. He's not just looking for the person who can. He's looking for the person who must. Because there's a drive inside of you, and you must live this life. And yes, there's a level of madness because you can't settle for less when everyone else can. It is a madness that drives you because it's a fire that burns within you. No one else is setting that fire. And no one else will understand why you get up before everyone else and go to bed after everyone else, and why you give just a little bit more than you need to give and do more than anyone requires of you and push yourself to be the best you can when so much less would satisfy. That's one of the reasons I love traveling with people and taking them on our experiences. Aaron and I this time took Kevin Pena and Albert Aquino, two guys we just love. And because I think sometimes the only way you can help people understand your work ethic, your drive, is to let them live in the middle of that drive. And everywhere we went, we took 3 flights to get to Kuala Lumpur. And the day we got to Kuala Lumpur, I was speaking. We went right from the airport to the event after flying 29 hours. And each country we'd fly to, we would land, and that day would be the event. And every day we'd be driving to the next event. And each time, when everyone was exhausted, we just stepped up a little bit more. And I thought it was so funny because one day told me in every country, well, we never had people who walked. So what do you mean never people who walked? Said there had never been any speakers who choose to walk the city. So that's insane. Why would you go to a city and not walk the city? Well, they always get driven to places. They get driven to places because they're not driven. And I remember when we were out one night really late and we were speaking and then we had this event and I said, what's going on? I said, we're waiting for the cars to come pick you up, take you to your hotel. I'm going, we don't need cars to take us to our hotel. We're going to walk Taipei. I said, but it's hot and muggy. That's all right. It's hot and muggy. We don't melt. We're okay. And he said, but it's 30 minutes away. And I said, it's so close. And some people were looking at me like, well, we don't really want to walk. I said, you don't have to walk. You can drive. But I'm walking because I know that you're only 32 and you're exhausted. And You're an old man in spirit, so you need to rest. And so the pastors and other leaders felt obligated to walk with us because they couldn't just let me walk the cities by myself. They're just so hot and clammy and sweaty, and it was so much fun. So much fun. And every place we went, we just kept going and going. And they said, do you need to rest? No. I said, if you need to rest, we can leave you at the hotel. I said, but we have things to do. We have a life to live. We have a world to explore. We can rest when we die. And then in the mornings, I would get up really early and go over to the gym because every country had these pork buns that were just so amazing. Michelin star pork buns. I did not know maple syrup was a food group. And so that required working out the pork buns and the dumplings and the noodles. And I remember one morning I was in this gym, and Albert Aquino came up to me because he came in a little later, and he started working out, and there's just us two in the place. And he came up to me later and goes, hey, are you always this intense? I said, what do you mean? He goes, are you always like this intense? I said, you mean like working out or life or what, And he goes, yeah, like, do you always work out this intense? And I said, Albert, this isn't intense. This is just normal. This is just being, And I realized something that we have accepted such a low standard of what we expect from each other, that normal to me looks intense. See, but I want you to understand something. I'm not a chill person who learned to be intense. I'm an intense person who learned how to be chill. Because when I was young, I didn't think my life had any meaning. When I was a kid, I was traumatized because I felt my life was insignificant. I lived in fear that my life would never matter. And when I had this life-changing encounter with Jesus and I realized there is purpose and intention to life, it changed everything for me. No one had to wake me up anymore. You see, before I met Jesus, I couldn't get up in the morning. I didn't have a motivation to even wake up and get out of bed, and I couldn't go to sleep at night because I felt so much distress and sorrow and depression in my life that I couldn't get up and I couldn't go to sleep. But what happened in my life when I realized I've been created with greatness inside of me, but it's up to me. This greatness isn't going to just come out naturally. I have to live a life with a sense of personal destiny, and I have to have self-motivated drive that says, God, I'm going to do something that matters today. And there's some of you here, you're still blaming other people for your lack of greatness. You actually think that life has been unfair to you because other people have more opportunities than you. In fact, I experience this all the time. I have people who get angry with me because they feel like I've had unfair opportunities. Let me tell you something. I worked for years, for decades with urban poor, and I thought all I had to do is give people opportunity, but I learned something really important. That opportunity falls empty when it's given to people without determination. That I can give a person opportunity, but that person has to bring determination. And if you're here and you do not have determination, if you don't have a personal drive to do something with your life that matters, all the opportunities in the world will come by and will be unused because the opportunities God has given you were not met by your drive and determination. I think you can look back on your life and know that you had opportunities that you missed. And I'm telling you, there's some opportunities available for you right now that if you don't have the drive, you'll never walk through them. What is it that God is laying in front of you that you're just not yet willing to pay the price to step into? I meet so many people who want success, but nobody really wants to sacrifice. You have to have a fire that drives you, a passion that moves you. And when you have the self-motivated drive, you have determination and resilience, and you face whatever comes, but nothing can hold you back, and nothing can hold you down. You just keep getting up, and you just push the rubble of your failures aside, and you get up, and you get up, and you get up. And it's great to have people championing you. It's great to have inspiration. I hope you're inspired. It's great to encourage people. I hope you're encouraged, but I want you to know something. Tomorrow is Monday. And it's not my voice that's going to set a fire in your life. It's got to be your inner voice that sets that fire inside. Joseph spent 13 years in prison. What motivated him to keep moving forward? Why didn't he give up on his dream? It's because it was a dream God gave him. It wasn't someone else's dream. It was something that happened inside of him, and it kept driving him forward until that dream became a reality. But when you see people who achieve greatness, you also see this other aspect of their life, because what it takes to be great is not just a sense of personal destiny or self-motivated drive. There has to be a commitment to self-discipline. I know this doesn't sound sexy or romantic, and no one wants to talk about self-discipline. And we live in an environment where it's just like, hey, you know, I want to be free to do whatever I want, and I just want to enjoy life. And you know, why do you want to just withhold from me all the pleasures? And you know what I want you to understand? Everything you say yes to is you saying no to something else. There is nothing you say yes to that doesn't cost you something. And you need to pay attention to what you're saying yes to, because you may actually be saying no to your future. Because people who achieve greatness make a decision to live a life that is self-sacrificing and that has deferred gratification. Just because it brings you pleasure doesn't mean it gives you purpose. If you keep living your life for what you want today, you will not be creating the life you'll want tomorrow. And without trying to over-moralize things, I'm telling you, some of you, you're going to keep repeating your past and wonder where your future went. There was a moment in Joseph's life where he was taken out of prison by a man named Potiphar. He was a powerful Egyptian. And he was the servant of Potiphar, so he was still a slave. And one day Potiphar was gone, and Potiphar's wife evidently was, I guess she was, you know, what they call old school, like a floozy. And Joseph was like a really good-looking guy, you know. And one day she said to Joseph, hey, you know, my husband's gone, and I'm here, and you're here, and you're looking fine. And she put on some Barry White, you know, and went old school. And no, nobody better than Barry White, I'm sorry. And then suddenly, he had a choice to make. I don't focus on Barry White, it's okay. And it would have been so easy for Joseph to decide, you know, God took everything from me, so I'm going to take this for myself. It would have been so easy for him to say, my life is so miserable. Why don't I just take for myself this moment's pleasure? And if he had said yes to her, he would have been saying no to his future. Your every yes has a no. And your every no has a yes. Great athletes, great creators, learn how to say yes to things that create the future they dream of. What are you saying yes to right now that is stealing from you your future? What are the disciplines you need in your life right now that will shift your life and move you towards your dreams? The dreams God gives you demand discipline in your life. Greatness doesn't come by accident. Greatness is always on the other side of sacrifice. You cannot be a Mozart without the discipline of studying music. You cannot be a Picasso without the discipline of studying art. You cannot be a LeBron without the discipline of being a great athlete. There is no greatness that can be achieved without self-discipline in your life. I think it's funny, when I was in Brazil, these pastors came up to me and said, we all used to be overweight until you. And now we're all like healthy. And they all were bringing out their before and after pictures. And their afters looked like befores. And, but they were making progress. But here's the problem. See, pastors didn't have a commitment to discipline. And then they were telling people to be disciplined. And the reality is, if there's anything that matters to you, then you'll be disciplined to get there. But beyond discipline, there's also a meticulous attention to detail. This is something I've noticed about people who achieve greatness. It doesn't surprise me that Kobe has a new podcast called Detail, because he's all about the details. In fact, when I listened to him, I thought, man, he's a genius. He really sees the details of everything. In fact, he sees details I didn't even know existed, because he pays attention to the game, because it mattered to him, because he was passionate about it. I used to interview people for jobs. I don't do that anymore. But when I used to interview people, I'd ask them, what's your skill set? What do you bring to the table? Tell me about yourself. And they would always say two things to me. One is, I'm a people person. I thought, that's such a strange thing to say. It's like you're taught to say that. I'm a people person. What other kind of person would you be? Like, I'm an inanimate object person. Right? I'm a bacteria person. Like, so really, there's only one option. Is like, I'm a people person. And you're like, well, what about people do you person? What is it that makes you a people person? And, and they usually don't know. I like people. It's good to know you like people. But there are really no jobs where the requirement is like people. You have to develop people, or lead people, or mentor people, or serve people. But you have to do something with people. There has to be a skill that you do with people. And then the other thing they always say is, I'm a visionary. Every 22-year-old I interviewed was, I'm a big picture person. Everybody here, I think, is like, I'm a visionary. I'm a dreamer. I'm a big picture person. And I always say, well, what does that mean to you? Well, I'm a big picture person. Well, yeah, no, elaborate. I'm a visionary. I go, okay, good. Could you be a little more specific? Yeah, I'm not good at details. It always gets there. And so I work better when I'm like a dreamer, visionary, and I have a team that implements my vision, because I'm not good at like details or follow through. I said, the job of dreamer, visionary, it's been taken. It's my job. And I'm looking for people who are good at details. And here's something I've actually learned. Visionaries are actually committed to details. See, if you're not good at details, you're not a visionary, you're a daydreamer. Because you cannot create a great work and not care about the details. Let me tell you, Michelangelo was a visionary, he cared about the details. Da Vinci, visionary, cared about the details. Frank Lloyd Wright, visionary who cared about the details. The details actually matter when you're a visionary. It's when you're a daydreamer that you don't care. Because you see, when you love something, the details explode in your brain. Because when you love something, when you're passionate about something, you can't stand it when people do not pay attention to the details. I've been married 35 years. Let me tell you, one thing you know is that you actually marry a stranger. You do. You think you know each other. You don't. You love each other, but you don't know each other. That's a part of the lifelong journey, is knowing each other. But when Kim and I were first married, I would travel a lot, and I'd always bring her a gift to let her know I was thinking about her. I don't know why, but for the first few years, I'd always bring her back t-shirts. I don't know what made me think she liked t-shirts. I realize now she never wore a single t-shirt I brought back, ever. One year, she had boxes of t-shirts, and she said, we're doing a giveaway, and we gave all the t-shirts away. Because she never liked a single t-shirt I brought back. But I thought, of course, she'll love these t-shirts, right? Missouri, right? It's like, who wouldn't want that? Who would not want that t-shirt, right? Hong Kong. It's like, never. And so later, I shifted from t-shirts, and I started bringing her clowns. Yes, it's terrifying, isn't it? And I started finding clowns all over the world, and I would bring her clowns, and our house was full of clowns. It was the most frightening Stephen King experience of our lives. And now Kim did not like clowns. She still does not like clowns, but I kept bringing her clowns. You see, I am a combination of generosity and OCD. So once I'm onto something, I just More clowns, more clowns, more clowns, more clowns. We need more clowns. I just kept bringing clowns, clowns, clowns. And finally, one day she said, no more clowns. And so I started bringing her lambs. I don't know why. But I saw one lamb, and then I realized, oh, there are other lambs in the world. And so I started looking. I would travel a city looking for a lamb to bring home to her. There are countries that don't have lambs, and it would take me so much work. But I'd come home, and she had lambs everywhere. She doesn't like lambs, but I kept bringing her lambs. And then one year I shifted and I started bringing her bears. Now, bears were easier because the world just seems to have bears everywhere. I bring her big bears and small bears and triplet bears and just all kinds of bears. And our house was full of bears and lambs and clowns. Oh, and then the last one was teapots. Now, I thought that was pretty good because I like tea. And I thought teapots are kind of cool. And so I think we went to England, and I saw like a teapot that was a replica of the Queen's teapot. And Kim loves British culture, and she loves like the whole monarchy thing. And so I got her a teapot, and somehow that registered in my brain, oh, she likes teapots. So I just started buying her teapots from all over the world. We still have teapots in our house because they're really expensive. Everything else she threw away. And one year, it just finally occurred to me, I probably should ask her what she likes. I don't know why it took me 20 years. And what I began to realize is that as you love someone, you pay attention to the details of who they are. You pay attention to the details of what they love and what they hate. You pay attention to the details of the food they like and the food they don't like, of the things that irritate them and the things that actually exhilarate them. And you pay attention to the details because when you love something, the details matter. I got to tell you, I've been going through culture shock this week because coming back from Singapore is like this brilliantly beautiful city. I can't even fully explain it, but it's like nirvana for people with OCD. It's like the perfect city. It's so, there's no garbage anywhere. It's so clean. There are no trash cans. I don't know what they do with their trash. I think they just absorb the trash. I had a piece of paper one day, and I spent the whole day looking for trash. I just put it in my pocket. I realized, oh, this must be what happens. It's like you have a cup, you just put it in your pocket. I don't know. Because there's no trash anywhere, and it's illegal to chew gum, so there's no gum anywhere, and the streets are immaculate, they're perfect, and all the trees are numbered. The trees are numbered. They have numbers. And the president, when he would drive to the airport, if he saw a tree that wasn't properly manicured or taken care of, he would just send the number to the government, and they'd come right out and fix the tree. It's like a dream. And then I came home to LA. I thought, I love you, LA, but you're not looking good. You're kind of like nappy, having a bad hair day. And I came over here, and I honestly, I started looking around going, wow, do we even love properly this thing we call the church? Because we know the church is people, but this building also reflects our feelings about God. And it started affecting me, and I started driving around going, these roads are disastrous. Do we love our city? Or have you ever noticed that you can get used to ugly? You ever noticed that? You can get used to nasty. You ever been over one of your friend's apartments? You're like, whoa, dude, you live here? Have you been in that apartment? You know what's bad? When you look at that apartment, you're actually looking inside of the soul of a person. See, if you don't care about the details of your life, you're not paying attention to the details of your soul. And the most important details in your life are the people in your life. How are you taking care of them? How are you treating them? How do you know them? And I even started thinking about giving, how maybe that's why God established tithing. Because we say we love God. That's the big picture. But tithing is like a detail. And when we can't even give 10% of our income to the mission of Jesus, how much do we actually really love Jesus? Because if the details don't matter, I don't think the vision or the dream matters to us either. See, when you take ownership, you move toward excellence. See, I want to be that kind of person. I want to be the kind of person who's always refining and making everything in my life better and better and better. I don't want to be satisfied. I want to be a better writer. I want to be a better communicator. I want to be a better leader. I want to be a better thinker. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better father. I want everything in my life to continuously improve. I don't ever want to hit a status quo. I don't ever want to hit a ceiling in my life. I want to always be paying attention to the details because the dream matters too much. And so Joseph had a dream, and then he started interpreting dreams, and then he paid attention to the details of the dreams. And here's the crazy thing. See, that last dream that Pharaoh had, because there was a Pharaoh who had a dream, and Joseph was brought in to interpret it, and he said there's going to be 7 years of plenty, then 7 years of famine, and what you need to do is you need to start storing up the abundance during the 7 years of abundance, and so that you'll have enough for the 7 years of famine, and you'll be able to override the dark season of your life. And the Pharaoh says, then you're in charge. And here's the crazy thing, the dreamer was in charge of the details. See, Joseph went from a visionary to an administrator, from the big picture to becoming an economist. And what's amazing is that this is a reminder that when you actually have a dream from God, you begin to pay attention to the details. And just one last thought, back to this last verse. Then Joseph said to his brothers, I'm about to die, but God will surely come to your aid and take you up out of the land to the land he promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Joseph made the Israelites swear an oath and said, God will surely come to your aid, and then you must carry my bones up from this place. Now, I want you to hear what's happening. Joseph says, I'm about to die, but my dream is not going to die. My life is about to end, but there's a future that's I'm helping usher in. And even though Pharaoh wants to embalm me here and bury me here, this is not the end of my story. See, what Joseph was actually saying to them is you despised me because you thought my dream was about me. You see, the brother they tried to kill, the brother they threw into slavery, became the most powerful man in Egypt. And when the famine came, his family had to run to Egypt. Even though they thought the Egyptians would kill them, they had no idea that Joseph was there waiting for them. Joseph, who they wanted to kill, was the beginning of their future. Joseph, whose future they wanted to end, was the one who's protecting their future. And Joseph said, there's something God's still going to do. There's a future that God is still going to create. And I want you to commit to me right now. I want you to swear to me by oath, you will take my bones out of the ground and you will take them into the future that only I can see, because you don't have the eyes to see it because you're not a dreamer yet. Because you're settling for less, and I want you to move into your greatness. You know what it takes to be great? You have to move from a life that's about you to a life that's about others. Because you see, just like LeBron only holds that ball for 6 minutes, it's how he affects everyone else those other 42 minutes that really makes him great. When you begin to live your life for others, you begin to understand the meaning of greatness. See, I am absolutely convinced there's greatness inside of you. You'll never convince me of anything less. It doesn't matter how many times you failed, how many people you've disappointed. It doesn't matter how many people have ever told you that you're insignificant, that you're not talented enough, you're not gifted enough. It doesn't matter what your past tells you. I'm telling you, you're created by a God who's great, and he created you in his image and likeness, and there's greatness inside of you. But you have to come to a place in your life where you realize that the greatness that God placed in you was never for you. The greatness that God placed in you was always supposed to be your gift to the world. When you're immature, you're all about living out your dreams, even if it means crushing other people's dreams. When you're immature, art is all about self-expression. When you're immature, it's all about finding your destiny and your intention. But when you finally mature, you realize that greatness is seen best when you're pulling the greatness out of others. Man, live your life not for your own dreams alone, but live your life to help other people live out their dreams as well. Take your gifts, your talents, your passions, your intelligence, take everything that has been placed in you, and instead of hoarding it to yourself to try to make yourself more, so that the world can see you when you have the ball in your hands, live your life in such a way that your life is defined by how you impact other people, how you affect other people, how you bring out the greatness in others. Wouldn't it be just the craziest thing if the greatest dreams of our own lives was to unleash the dreams of other lives? That's who I want us to be. I want us to do what it takes to be great. I want us to live the kind of life where when we come to the end of our lives, we say, you know, I'm not finished yet because my life was never about me. It was always about you. So just take my bones up. Take my bones up because my bones are never going down. You take my bones up because there's a future still to be created. And by the way, that's exactly what Jesus did. I don't know if you know this, but when God stepped into human history, he didn't need to do that. He was already great. God didn't have to take on flesh and blood to prove he was awesome. He was already awesome. When Jesus died on the cross, he didn't do that for himself. He did it for you and for me. See, he didn't need to do anything to be great. He was already great. When Jesus died on the cross, he did the greatest thing that could ever be done. In that moment of sacrifice, he gave up his greatness so that your greatness could be awakened. See, you want to know who Jesus is? When you get on the court on his team, he makes you look great because he pulls out the greatness in you. And you finally become the person you were created to be. When Jesus rose from the dead, he didn't do that for him. He didn't do it for himself. He did it for you. He did it for you. Because Jesus conquered death, not because God needed death conquered, but because we needed death conquered. I want you to know something. There's some of you here right now, you're haunted by an emptiness. You're haunted by the realization that there's something inside of you you can't seem to access, that there's a greatness inside of you, and you sense it, you feel it, you long for it. You have to believe. But you're wondering why you can't get to it. It seems lost in the abyss of your soul. And I want you to know it's because the greatness in you can only be accessed by the God who placed it in you. And right now, I just want to invite you to cross that line of faith. Just take that step of faith and courage and place your life in the hands of the God who loves you. And give yourself to Jesus so he can give himself to you. And I want to lead you in a prayer right now where you allow the God who is great to forgive you of all your past and set you free to live your future. Because if you could have just made the decision 10 years ago that would have changed your life today, would you go back in time to change your decision? If you could go back 20 years ago and make a decision that would make your life the life of your dreams, would you go back and make that decision? I want you to live in this moment right now and look 20 years ahead. Because in 20 years, you're going to look back to this moment and say, thank God, 20 years ago, I chose Jesus. There's some of you right now, you need to go 5 years into the future and look back to this moment and say, 5 years ago on that night at Mosaic, I made the decision that changed my life and ushered in a new future. Some of you are going to look back 30 years from now and your family's going to ask you what changed your life, and you're going to look back to this moment and say, 30 years ago, I was in a room and I decided enough was enough. No more status quo. No more apathy, no more mediocrity. I was going to live up to the greatness that God placed in me, and it changed everything. I want this to be the moment that your future is defined by. And I want you to bow your heads with me just right now and close your eyes. And if you're here right now and you're ready to give your life to Jesus, you're ready to cross that line of faith, I want you to pray this simple prayer with me right now. Jesus, I give you my life. Jesus, I give you my life right now. Just tell him. Jesus, I give you my life. If this is your prayer, Jesus, I give you my life. If this is your prayer, if in this moment you've made that defining decision to give your life to Jesus, I want to pray for you. I want to nail this decision down, that you've crossed that line of faith, that you belong to Jesus. If you just prayed this prayer, Jesus, I give you my life, I want you to hold up your hand right now. I want you right now, without shame, without embarrassment, without hesitation, right now, just hold up your hand high and say, yes, this is my moment. I crossed the line of faith and said, Jesus, I give you my life right now. Beautiful. Anyone else right now? Just hold your hand up high. I want to see you. Beautiful. Anyone else? Beautiful. Anyone else? Jesus, I give you my life. Wonderful. Anyone else? Jesus, I give you my life right now. This is your moment. Jesus, I give you my life. Anyone else? I thank you, Father, for all these women and men who in this moment have crossed the line of faith and given their life to you. I pray this would be the beginning of new things for them, that you would just wrap them up in your love and let them know they belong to you. I pray, God, that this would be the defining moment that shapes their future, that they would know that you'll never leave them or abandon them, that they belong to you. We thank you, Father. With your heads bowed and your eyes closed, I want to ask you one more thing. Some of you are here and you believe in Jesus. Some of you are here and you've given your life to Jesus, but you've been drowning in mediocrity. You've accepted the status quo. You've not taken a hold of your greatness. And today you're making a decision. I'm going to do what it takes to be great. I'm done being average. I'm done with mediocrity. I'm done with the status quo. I'm ready to make the decisions for God to unlock that greatness in me. And what I want you to do, if that's you, I want to pray for you, but I want you to find the courage to stand and say, yes, that's me. Today is my defining moment. This is my defining moment. I'm going to step out of the status quo. I'm going to step out of my apathy. I'm going to step out of mediocrity. I'm going to step into the greatness God has for me. I'm going to step into my intention. I'm going to make this the moment where my life changes on an axis. A new future is mine. Just stand right now. I want to pray for you if that's you. Right now, if that's you, I just want you to stand. I want you to stand in your courage. I want you to stand in God's strength. I want you to stand in the knowledge that God has placed greatness in you. And now he's waiting to pull it out of you. Beautiful. I thank you, Father, for these women and men who have stood in this moment and said, yes, I believe you placed greatness in me. And I'm going to do what it takes to be great, to live a life that honors you, that reflects you. No compromise, no status quo, no mediocrity. I'm giving you the best, Jesus. I'm giving you my best. I'm giving you my everything. We thank you, Father, and we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Can we just thank God for everyone? Let's all stand together. Come on, stand with me. Let's just thank God for what he's doing in our hearts and lives right now. Hey guys, I know I just did an unforgivable thing. I just spoke to you for an hour and 3 minutes. I want to thank you for hanging in there with me. But I am so committed to what God is doing in your life. I think this is one of those moments that you will look back on in your life and know that God changed things. And I want you to know, over the next few weeks, we're going to lean in hard. You need to show up. You need to be here. You need to let God speak into your life. But it cannot be just about you. You need to grab your friends. You need to grab people and bring them with you. Because people in the city need to know that they matter. They need to know that God has created them with purpose and intention, that God has placed greatness in their life. There are people right now who don't know how much they matter, and we need to step into their lives and let them know they matter to us. So I want you to step in next week, get ready for the book clubs, watch what God does. Let's believe for great things and lean in and watch God. And never forget, don't let anyone tell you anything different. There's greatness inside of you. It's time to step up and let God unlock that greatness in your life. Bless.
You won't forsake me. You won't betray me. You never fail me, and I won't be afraid. No, you won't forsake me. You won't betray me. You'll never fail. Protect me, you will defend me, Savior, my comfort, my peace.
Come on, Mosaic. Right now, can we together as a tribe, as a church, thank Pastor Erwin for that talk today, tonight. Thank you. We have a gift, don't we all? Man, all day, and it's just been a word that I can't even explain. The futures were changed tonight. That 30 years from now, the world's gonna look different because of tonight. And Pastor Erwin, just thank you. Thank you that you set a city on fire. You remind us of who we're always supposed to be, and we love you. We will follow you wherever we need to go. We thank God for you. We thank God for you. And there was hands across this room, hands all day, people making this decision to trust Jesus with everything. And if that was you tonight, and you said yes, we have a gift for you. It's a Bible. We want to help you as you begin this new journey of faith. So we go out in the back. You'll see our team holding it up there. They're holding it up for you. You can go ahead and grab that, give them a hug, and we just want to celebrate this decision with you. And then coming up in a couple weeks, as Pastor Erwin said, we're starting a new series called Chasing Daylight. And it's going to be an amazing conversation as we begin to continue helping our friends and ourselves live the life that we were created to live. And so get in a book club, start a book club, invite your friends, get in a crew. It's the best way to find community, but it starts with this book. Okay, we have a limited edition, a limited number of copies, so make sure before you leave, you go in the back, grab a copy, and then start telling all your friends about it, because it's gonna be incredible, and it's gonna be an amazing time together. Hey, we love you guys so much. We'll see you next week. Bring your friends. Let's pack this place out. All right, God bless.